Allies and Axis are the two main forces that had a role in World War II. On the Allies, there are three main countries. The first was Great Britain, the second was the Soviet Union, and the third was the United States of America. The Soviet Union was not always on the Allies. They switched sides from the Axis on July 12, 1941. The Axis is made up of Germany, Japan, and Italy. World War II started when the Treaty of Versailles angered a young German corporal named Adolf Hitler. Hitler vowed that he would return Germany to its former glory. Hitler started to grow his empire after he was released from prison in 1924 for trying to overthrow the German government in 1923. He became the Chancellor of Germany in 1933. He declared that the Nazi Party was the only political party, which made certain that Hitler would stay as Germany's ruler as long as he was in charge of the Nazi Party. The Axis soldiers used weapons like rifles, pistols, and swords. The Mauser rifles were used by the German army. Luger pistols were commonly used by German officers. STG MP-44 submachine guns were also used by the Germans. Tachi swords were used by Japanese officers. The sword was usually worn to honor skills of an ancient samurai warrior. The Allies fought with a variety of handheld weapons or rifles. The Colt 45 pistols were used by mostly U.S. troops. The Mosin Nagant M1891 sniper rifles were made by the Soviets. The Browning automatic rifle was a gun used by all Allies. The combat knife Fairbairn Sykes had a deadly double-edged blade and was used by British troops. The morning of December 7th, 1941 at 7:55 a.m. started one of the saddest days in American history. America was bombed by the Japanese at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, in a surprise attack. Two of our battleships were completely destroyed, the USS Oklahoma and the USS Arizona. The Arizona sank in the harbor with over 1,000 on board. On that day, more than 2,000 Americans were killed. On December 12th, the United States joined World War II with the Allies fighting against the Axis. This year marked the 75th anniversary of Pearl Harbor.
At 5 minutes to 8 on December 7th, 2016, there was what they call a flight of Navy, I believe they're F-19 fighter jets that flew overhead with one going off, veering off in memory of those that were killed 75 years ago in the attack of Pearl Harbor. December 7, 1941. On that day, more than 2,400 American servicemen were killed. More than 68 civilians were wounded. And we should never forget what happened that day. Hopefully it will never happen again. We had many, our Navy was crippled. Many of the ships were sunk, like the Arizona, the Utah, the West Virginia. And if you get to Hawaii, you can visit these sites.
The Big Three were made up of the most powerful countries on the Allies, including Great Britain's Prime Minister Winston Churchill, the Soviet Union's leader Joseph Stalin, and the USA's President Franklin Roosevelt. Together, these commanders will always be known as the Big Three of World War II. The men together took down the Axis. The three only met 2 times altogether. They had their own individual meetings as well. The biggest operation that they planned together was D-Day. Winston Churchill had a British father and American mother. He was born in 1874. Churchill had a way with words. His most known speech was on June 4th, 1940, when the Germans invaded Britain. A quote from his speech is, "We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. And we shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender." Joseph Stalin was born in 1879. He died on March 5th, 1953. His birth name was Joseph WWII-Taking. He changed it to Joseph Stalin. Stalin means man of steel. He had a harsh childhood from being in poverty, and his father was an alcoholic and beat him. Stalin made the Soviet Union a global powerhouse with nuclear weapons. Franklin D. Roosevelt was the 32nd President of the United States of America. He was born in 1882 and he died on April 12, 1945. His voice gave hope to many Americans. He not only led the United States through World War II, he led the United States through the Great Depression. The Allies needed a plan to win the war. The Germans had invaded France. The Big Three continued meeting in secret. They made a plan. The code name was Operation Overlord. They decided that Normandy, France, would be the best place to land because it was so close to Britain. There were multiple code names for the beaches. They were Utah, Omaha, Juneau, Gold, and Sword. They made wooden boats that could be sailed right onto the beaches. Also wooden gliders that were made to glide down silently and land. The invasion almost did not work. A storm came in. They might have been forced to call it off. Just in time, the weather changed and the general gave the okay to attack on June 6, 1944. 3,000 American soldiers were killed. They lost their lives, but Omaha Beach was captured. In the year 1942, a young 22-year-old man from New York named Joseph Galata left his wife and baby to join the army and fight for his country. He spent 3 years overseas. His squadron was the airborne 194th Glider Infantry. He was one of the brave soldiers to land on Omaha Beach in France, days after D-Day. He fought the Germans. He was honorably discharged after the war ended and was home in September 1945. These are some of his patches and medals he was awarded for his bravery. He even brought home this sword from a German soldier. He was one of the lucky ones to come home from the war. I am very grateful for his service to our country, and I proudly call him my great-grandfather. I never met him because he died in 1984. If I could meet him today, I would say thank you to him and all the men and women who took a stand for their country by serving in the armed forces during World War II.